to the final session. Thank you for staying with us. Yes, you can give that a whoop and you can cheer. That was the worst cheer ever. But thanks for trying, everyone. I do appreciate it. So, thank you ever so much for joining us today. We've got a great end to the day coming up. And it's funny how things work in this world, isn't it? About 10 years ago, I was a little sales run over at Centaur, running the commercial team for Marketing Week, Festival of Marketing. And my boss at the time, Andrew, was there. And as I said, it's funny how things happen, because fast forward 10 years, Andrew is now here to talk to us about running, fairly large advertiser, and I'm still a sales runt. So yeah, it's funny how the world works, isn't it? But let's kick on. And again, I love the title, because if I said, trust me, I'm in advertising, it'd be really bad, wouldn't it? Trust me, I'm in advertising. But I think this will be a lot better than that. So look, please give both Andrea and James from the Media Leader a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, of course, to Andrea. We're going to do that lazy thing of letting an amazing video do the intro for us. So let's run this video.
Don't be a space invader. Stay safe. Stay back.
Simple.
If you're driving home for Christmas and need to put food in your faces, our drive-thrus are open for business. Yeah.
Wow, that is 100 years of advertising in about 2 minutes or so, and it all the way through. Looking at that, there was massive brands in there, small brands in there, brand building, public good advertising. As the president of the Advertising Association on its centenary, what's the first thing that strikes you about that?
Don't you just love that reel? Doesn't it just make you feel fantastic to be in the sector? It does me. I mean, I look at some of those ads, and the Guinness ad, the Surfer ad, and I still would watch it. And I think what that reel does for me, the reason why I love being part of the Ad Association, the reason why I do think we should all be celebrating advertising, is because when they are great pieces of entertainment, when they absolutely talk about a truth in that brand, then actually people carry on loving them for years and years and years. I mean, the Cadbury's Gorilla ad, I think, was launched
19 years old.
19 years old. And it is still one of the best ads. It won the best ad in 50 years. It is truly remarkable. The Surfer, I think, is over 30 years. Yeah. I mean, amazing, really amazing. Happy to watch it still throughout. And as the National Lottery, 1994, It Could Be You, the hand. that was launched then. We've brought it back. It's as true, memorable, and resonates with consumers today as it did then. So that's why I love it. I love it. It's great entertainment. I think one of the headlines was creativity meets commerce, and that's what advertising is. So brilliant to do. I did move across from marketing into general management, but it's advertising that fuels growth. So if you're in a business and you want to keep ahead, you need to engage with it.
We'll forgive you for moving away from advertising to generally managing. But so Harold Vernon was the first president of the AA over 100 years ago.
Wow.
If he was in this room now, just watch that reel, what do you think he'd recognise about advertising today, and what do you think would be different?
So I think if you think about who was advertising then, General Motors was advertising cars. I think P&G had just started brand management back in 1926. Lever Brothers were advertising. American Tobacco, Lucky Strike was advertising. So a lot of big brands were advertising then. I'm not sure how many retailers were advertising. I know you were going to comment on that recent headline. But great advertising still fuels growth. And I think that is a truth that we can't run away from.
So let's dig into that. I agree, but let's dig into that retailer question. So there was news at the beginning of this week that for the first time, sales of own brand goods have outstripped branded goods, and public perception of own brand goods has increased over branded goods in some categories as well. Is that a challenge for brand managers? Is that brand managers not doing their job, as Les Binet told me this morning, or is that something else happening?
I don't know. Have we got any retailers in the room? Have we got any brand managers in the room?
They're all too busy panicking.
Don't be shy. I think retailers have really got their act together. I think the competition on the high street has meant they've really got their act together, and I think retailers are looking at their own ranges in a way that they didn't before. I don't think that means that brand management is dead. I just think it's really hard at the moment. And I think the constant evolution of the consumer marketing space, the way the eyeballs, ears, and the way you're bombarded with advertising means it's very difficult. The Credos work that the AA have just completed, that shows trust in advertising is doing really well, probably 5-year high at 40%. But bombardment is probably the biggest negative. And it's really, really important that as advertisers, we think about how we can prevent bombardment, and we can really reduce the number of ads that are just wasted and just pissing off a consumer. Sorry, bad language.
No, this is a...
Sheila's used to that.
I read a study that said people who swear live longer. So, let's carry on that trait. You work for a kind of in a heavy you work in currently and have worked previously in heavy regulated environments.
It's a joy.
Yeah, and when we chatted ahead of this, you talked about actually some of the most creative and most impactful adverts come from regulated environments. You talked about the kind of adverts that aren't so popular now. You've talked about tobacco brands, alcohol brands, the kind of those challenging environments. Why do you think that is, and what does that say about advertising and say about regulation?
I'm not going to comment on regulation, but I think the better the brief, the better the ad. The better the brief, the better the creative idea. So for any of you in the room that have worked with me, you will know I force the best briefs out of the teams in my business, because the tighter the brief is, the more likely you'll get great, memorable work that is rooted in a brand truth, and that's what you need.
And so talk about that process. We've got a lot of brand marketers and agencies in the room. How do we make sure that we get good briefs? We've all seen good briefs. We've all seen some pretty horrendous briefs, I imagine, as well. How do we ensure that our teams get good briefs?
Internal rigor. I mean, I think that's about a philosophy of how you run your business. how detailed you are, how important people think it is. If people think that a brief isn't important and the agency should just solve a problem, then you're not helping your team. I think it is a skill. I think it's an important process to help people learn. I think some organisations, and I'm not going to name which ones, but some organisations I have known weren't taught how to write good briefs and didn't think it was their responsibility. They thought an agency was an outsourcing of the problem, as opposed to your responsibility as the brand manager is to really think through the problem, to have analysed the situation, the market condition, what you want to happen. And it's your responsibility to get that brief right. So I think that philosophy is about how you work internally.
Brilliant. If we were standing on this stage about 5-10 years ago, we'd have probably said the word storyteller about 5 times already.
I still love to use the word storytelling.
Yeah, and we are all storytellers. At the National Lottery, you said you've brought It Could Be You back. You've done some kind of community-based storytelling. Talk to me a little bit about that and kind of how you've driven that.
Have any of you seen the Claudia Winkleman Because of You campaign? Excellent, excellent. It's really important for me, whilst it's not part of my regulatory responsibility, that everyone knows where the money goes to from the National Lottery. So when you play, the money that is generated goes to good causes. And because it's no one's responsibility to tell that story, nobody had told the story. The only people that had publicly told the story were the Olympians and the Paralympians, whose lives were changed because of National Lottery funding. I think it's really important. 70% of the money raised by the National Lottery goes to multiple community projects of £10,000 or less up and down the country. So everywhere that you will live, in every single postcode, there have been grants given out thanks to your playing the National Lottery. And people don't know that. So the Claudia Winkleman campaign, where she goes on tour around the country with players, helps to bring to life those campaigns. And it is true storytelling. This is how the money has been spent. It's not about promoting ticket purchase, but it is about making sure everyone knows the real purpose of the National Lottery.
So let's stay on storytelling.
Okay.
The advertising industry, we saw some amazing numbers up there, kind of 109 billion of GVA, 1.7 million people employed in the UK, 17.9 million worth of exports.
You've done your homework.
Yeah, it's written here. Are we telling the right story about ourselves?
Well, I don't think so. I think that if you think of advertising and marketing as a discipline for every business, it is the discipline that fuels growth. And collectively, what the industry has done, because of its massive explosion in lots of specialisms, is we have become very vertically focused. Lots and lots of specialisms that are true specialisms that really enable growth in particular areas. The problem with that is we now have multiple people trying to claim credit for different parts of success. And I believe in the horizontal story. I believe in business growth. I believe we should all be joining the dots together to tell the stories of how collectively advertising really, really powers business. And that's part of a mission at the Ad Association, to really deliver some success files. That we've got a partnership going with the Times to try and bring to life some of those stories, because I think it's really important. I think it's really important to recruit the right talent. When I was at college, the milk round, as it was called then, the hottest jobs were in advertising. And I'm not sure that's the case anymore. We've got to excite people about the industry again. And I think recognizing the importance to the economy, to 1.7 million jobs, to 1.9 billion of GVA is really, really important. We need to make sure it's not just the CFO that knows the importance in every business, but it's externally, it's government, it's everybody that recognises the importance of what we're doing.
And I think that's a bit of a call to arms for everyone in this room to do that as well. And I think it's something that we try and do on the Media Leader, and we will always try and do on the Media Leader, is that champion the excellence in the industry and be confident about, we can compete for budget, we can compete for talent, we can compete for attention, but a rising tide of the advertising industry raises all our ships.
And so I would suggest people try and work together on businesses as opposed to try and steal each other's chunk of the pie.
Right, that was way too happy. Let's get a bit tougher. At Lead in February, a significant proportion of the room, about 85% of the people there within our own industry, said that AI is going to make people trust advertising less. You've talked about some kind of Credos trust research as well. That AI number, trusting advertising less by that proportion, is that something that we should all be worried about? And how do we address that?
Well, I think there are a lot of people worried about AI full stop. So I think that was a immediate response. And if you asked people on the street, you'd probably get a similar number. Yeah. There are lots of people very scared about AI at the moment, as opposed to wanting to be, welcome everyone, wanting to grab it and use it and empower. At the moment, as I said, there are other things that are causing mistrust. Yep. And bombardment is something that I believe everyone in this room should be taking seriously, because that is something we can control now. And don't be scared of AI, because AI, we use it already. I mean, it's automation. It's just automation on steroids. So lean into it, learn how best to use it, and then people will be less scared of it. But equally, I think there are other things that cause mistrust in advertising that we could get to grips with now if, again, we lean into it and don't run away from it.
So you mentioned bombardment being one of those. We've talked before about influencers and the kind of the general public perception that they don't trust influencers as a whole, but they trust individual influencers. What lessons can we learn from that? And kind of as
everyone's an individual, and that's a paradox you're not going to square the circle on. I think some of the ASA advertising campaigns that had a quality stamp that said, this ad is trusted, or call this number if you don't trust this ad, and actually it worked. There's a quality element to influencers, which I think people are adjusting to. So I think that will settle down, I think. I'm confident that it's something that is here to stay, but it will evolve and it will earn its rights to having that authority.
Brilliant. And so we talked about bombardment, talked about influencers, talked about AI. What are the other trust elements that you think we need to be cautious of?
I think that be true to what your brand can offer. Don't overpromise, don't oversell. They are truths that exist and have always existed. I think, well, for me, bombardment is probably the biggest one we can address now. At the National Lottery, we look at active attention rather than reach. How long do people stay? Don't retarget forever. We put a cap on retargeting in every week for individuals. All of these things are not only sensible because they don't waste your money, but actually they don't piss off your potential consumer. So they're really sensible things to grab hold of. And if we all behaved like that, if we all took those lessons, then actually that would have a very positive impact.
And I think we're rapidly running out of time, which is really disappointing. Because we could chat for ages. Yeah. And the room packed full of brands and agencies. What message would you like them to take back to the office? Tomorrow morning, this evening, when they're sending emails to their team. I've been to the Future of Brands. I heard Andria talk, and we need to do this.
Buy a lottery ticket.
You can take the brand marketer out of a brand marketing role. Brilliant. All right, there's no building on that, is there? And my final question, which I'd love a longer answer to, is we've looked at brands that have been around for 100 years. How do the brands in this room ensure that they're around in 100 years' time? What are the kind of brand building principles that they have to stick to today that's going to ensure them be around in 100 years?
Nice, simple question to end with.
Yeah. 50 seconds, let's go.
I would say stick to your brand truth. Stick to your brand truth. Stick to your brand truth. Lean into problems. Don't run away from problems. Has always been my personal. Poor old Shelley has to live with that every day. But the world will constantly change. Don't try and prevent change from happening. Lean it into it. Understand how your brand can be relevant. Continually focus on your consumer. Continually focus on your consumer. And then you'll stay relevant. Look at Guinness.
Amazing, and it's not long till we can all potentially enjoy a Guinness after the event. There's a few more sessions to go. We've run out of time here with Andria, much to my personal disappointment. This has been absolutely fantastic. Everyone, could you put your hands together for Andria? Thank you very much.